Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Direct Booking Success Podcast. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I'm Jenn Boyles, your host, and today I have Connor Paton with me. He is the co founder and CEO of Noshable. Welcome, Connor.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here and chit chat with you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. So, Connor, tell me about Noshable, the inception of Noshable. What inspired you to delve into grocery concierge software for short term and vacation rentals?
Yeah. So I have a bit of a background in everything. I've been around real estate my whole life, whether it was growing up collecting rent checks and helping my parents for long-term rentals that they had. I have my real estate license, and then I have a background in a variety of different startups, fintech, prop tech. And one of the prop tech startups I worked for in the past doing finance and acquisition at was called Real Fund. So I really got first exposed to the property management side of things there. We basically kind of had a goal of purchasing properties that were short-term rentals and allowing people to invest in like micro shares of it. So you
Mhm.
had the chance to actually go use select days to go stay there yourselves as well as make some money and receive dividend checks. So in essence, we were a property manager and I was doing a lot of the purchasing there. So I really fell in love with the space, and that's kind of what got me to get my real estate license. But I also saw a lot of the struggles that PMs
Yeah.
themselves face. So building out a tech stack can be crazy. There's all these different technologies and they all cost a lot and it's per property. And then oftentimes on the guest side of things too, I'm a big advocate for staying in short-term rentals and Airbnbs, and I absolutely love them over hotels, but there are definitely a lot of experiences that we've all faced where we just had a subpar trip. And so one of the things that I noticed along with my co-founders and just seemed to be an overwhelming problem is that a majority of people start their trip when they stay in a short-term rental with an errand, and that's grocery shopping. Even with this huge boost in people using Instacart and Uber Eats through our own surveys, we found that 59% of people use this type of gig economy delivery services, yet 94% overall still grocery shop. So they're not doing a $400 Instacart order. And that's your first 2 hours of your trip, or sometimes the grocery store's closed and that's the next 2 hours of your morning. So that's something we wanted to solve selfishly for ourselves, but also
Yeah.
for guests while making it something completely free for PMs to offer, not adding any hassle to their tech stack.
Yeah, no, I've been there. I've checked into a vacation rental, short term rental, and, there's been no toilet paper. Thankfully, in this day and age, usually is. But I have had that, it's like, where's the shop? We got to go now. This is not something we can wait till tomorrow morning. It's not breakfast or anything like that. So I get it. I get it that you don't want to spend your first precious time because you're excited about your holiday. You're so excited and you've got things to do and, "Oh, I've got to do an errand." So why now? Why do you think Noshable is right for where we are in hospitality today?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this is something that I just found interesting being a little bit of a history buff is over like the course of Airbnb's lineage, it's changed a lot. And a lot of people don't realize, but Airbnb, when it first started out with like Brian and his co-founder, they had the idea because there's overflow for conventions in big cities like California and New York, where people just could not find a hotel to stay in. And hotels are really the standard for finding a space to stay. And so they had this idea to start Airbnb. And what they would do is they'd let people put their apartments up, and they had two requirements. The first was that you had to have some sort of air mattress for someone to sleep on, as well as offer them breakfast in the morning, which obviously a lot of Airbnbs don't offer breakfast anymore. So maybe we've gone downhill on that side of things, but I think we're a lot better with, unique bedrooms and actually having the place to yourself seems to be the overall standard in the industry. And so it's changed a lot. And I've been watching that change throughout its history. And it reminded me, and from like the research I did, of the hotel industry, and kind of from the 50s on to the early 70s, the hotel industry had been pretty set in stone. There's a lot of bed and breakfasts, and there was no real differentiators between them. There was basically people would just be agnostic when it comes to choosing one. There wasn't really a lot of loyalty associated. It was basically whoever you were closest to and was closest to the road you're kind of leaving is where you'd end up staying the night for. And then in the early 70s, a lot of these hotel brands started to realize that if they wanted to be able to consolidate and buy up other hotels and have people choose their hotel over the one that's a mile closer that just got built, they needed to have some sort of loyalty that they build with those customers and goodwill. And they did that through loyalty programs, adding bars, unique restaurants into hotels. And they really became more of an experience overall and a brand themselves. So that's really like one of the big differentiators that I think Airbnb and short-term rentals are getting pushed towards nowadays. And I think something we were talking about earlier too is just like we all have those brands that we relate to. I was talking about being an avid iPhone and just Apple product user and how you'll argue for 20 minutes straight at lunch with a friend who has an Android tooth and nail about why your Apple phone is better and how you have AirDrop and we don't have the green messages. And that just shows like a company that has done branding right and experiences right because you'll argue instead of talking to your friend over lunch about it, just like Delta or other airlines where people are just extremely loyal to that one airline and they love the service, even though they know they might be paying more rather
Yeah.
than picking the cheapest ticket each time. And I think there's a huge opportunity and people are frankly going to be forced to start finding that kind of branding and providing those type of experiences for their guests as PMs.
Yeah, and as you're talking, I'm thinking I watched the Elvis movie recently, and it was the beginning of Las Vegas, and
Yeah.
seeing the hotels being built, and they brought in these shows to bring in guests. It was the guest experience. So they'd have these.
Yeah.
They still do these today, don't they? These residences of having a big star, Beyonce. Who else has done one? Elton John, whoever else.
Yeah.
Celine Dion did one, didn't she?
I just saw you two in the Sphere and paid way more than I probably should have for
There you
in
go.
Vegas. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the guest experience, but they had started doing this, as you said, starting in the 70s, that almost that fat Elvis stage. He was, in Vegas for that almost that, well, until he died, I guess, that
Yeah.
decade. But I guess, yeah, it's building that brand. So what can we as short-term rentals take from the hotels and what they have gone through over these decades?
Yeah, yeah. So, like I said, hotels, airlines, casinos, for example, in Vegas are another one. Like basically not giving someone a reason to leave. So, getting business and technical. So this might be terms some people have heard, some haven't. All like businesses have what they call customer acquisition costs, and that's basically marketing dollars you're spending, offers that you provide to essentially get more customers to try out your service or come stay in your property. And then you have what's called an LTV, which is a lifetime value of that customer. So if Chipotle offers customers a deal for a free burrito for $10, but those customers fall in love and they start eating Chipotle the rest of their life, they end up having $10 spent, but $1,000 lifetime value. And that ratio is super important. And so I think similar to Chipotle in that example, it's the trying to bring in new customers and then wowing them and making them want to stay with you forever is super important. So when it comes to like direct bookings, as this whole podcast is really about, if you can get a customer, whether it's from a direct booking or not, to just want to come back every year, then that is going to provide a huge lifetime value. Even if you offer that guest, a discount to start or you bend over backwards to try and make them happy, you got to think of this as a long play, just like Apple does. They know you're going to buy the new iPhone as soon as possible or as soon as, the next one comes out. And it's that same approach of like this infinite game and branding and building an experience. And that's kind of what segues into Noshable and all these other awesome services like Mount and stuff that have come out now that offer, all these variety of other things you can tie into your business that ultimately what hospitality is about. When you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, some of those basic things you need, right, are like safety and shelter, food, water. And oftentimes all we're offering in the hospitality industry is just that shelter. And this is a great way to offer, the ability to have the food there when you're ready or have these cool experiences planned, and being a part of that overall story on that vacation with a family or a group of friends is super important.
And it's, behind closed doors, we talk about upselling, right?
Hmm.
This is another way of adding a revenue stream for a property manager and owner's business, which is great because you're getting a little cut from the company that you are using with your guests. But the idea of the guests coming back again and again, that also means that you are spending less money marketing to new guests.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So what else can we do to be bringing people back again and again?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, it's building a brand for yourself and personifying that brand and following brand guidelines. So this is something that when you're in the startup space, you really have to do. And when you're first starting a company, you're like, what do I want my brand to be like? You have to personify it, whether it's on social media, whether it's the way that you respond to your guests and your messaging. How do you want to come across? Whether it's friendly, or it's a little bit funny or edgy, whatever it is in your brand and that you feel is appropriate. I think it's super important to kind of establish that as a baseline first, what you want your brand to be personified as, and follow that to a T. But then start to try and create those loyal guests. It's better to have, one person that's going to go tell 100 people because they're super excited and just like cannot stop raving about you than 100 people that just had an average experience and probably won't book you again. And I think like putting that effort in. And as I was talking about that customer acquisition cost, even if it means financially offering them better deals or, making up for something that maybe wasn't your fault and you probably shouldn't have paid for anyways, those are the type of experiences that people will talk about and rave about and tell other people. And then their friends book direct from your website. So I think that's super important is building that brand and then promoting it as much as possible and just really making people have a reason to back you like they do Apple or Delta or these other
Yeah.
companies.
Yeah, and gone are the days of a head on a bed. You know,
Mhm.
ultimately, that's why they're coming. They need a place to stay for the night. You've got to get those basics in there, like proper pillows, proper linens, proper beds.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and she was saying how she knows of this other company who's got thousands and thousands of followers on Instagram. But as the guests come out of staying there, they're not having the greatest experience. It's not living up to the hype
Yeah.
they have seen on social media. And she asked the property manager what's going on, talking about different aspects of the business. And
Mhm.
he just said, "Well, I get the cheapest stuff from Walmart, furniture
Yeah.
markets all the time." But he had a spin on it on social media that had a huge following, which is disappointing. But you've got to get those basics right, don't you?
Yeah.
Or you start adding in the other things.
Yeah, and to add to that too, just from a psychology perspective, humans are super unique compared to other animals and mammals in the fact that our brains can we're constantly thinking, and unfortunately, like 80% of them are just recurring thoughts, and a lot of them are negative. But we're constantly thinking, and just like any scenario, whether you just had a conversation with your boss at work, you're like, I wish that could have gone differently. You're
Mhm.
playing it out and how you wish. At the same time, when they're looking on Airbnb or on a direct booking site at these properties they're like clicking on that property, going through it, and they're imagining themselves with their friends and their family. And they're not imagining themselves wiping their butt with the toilet paper or, staying in the linens and feeling what they feel like. Like those are things, like you said, you have to get those right, obviously. But those don't make it. They can only break it. The things that they really care about are these type of upsells or other experiences where like you have a kid who is diabetic and needs the grocery stores are closed and it's pre-stocked, ready to go, or you just want a bottle of wine with your significant other, whatever it is, or you have an upsell through a company like Mount where they have all these cool trips planned already and you're going snorkeling. Those are the things that they're going to think about when they're looking at the pictures of your property. Ultimately, it's probably not going to be about the sheets, but you have to get those right, as you said, because those really can break it as well.
Yeah, they can break it. And, there's no point having all these amazing experiences and other add-ons and trying to boost your revenue when people are just going to come in and go, "Oh, this is it? This is not what I thought I was booking." You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
it's gone are the days of, we need an air mattress. Gone are the days of air mattresses on the floor. Thankfully, I can't imagine, I've slept on an air mattress before. No, thank you. Don't wanna be doing that again.
I'll take the cooked breakfast though. That I
Yeah.
guess someone can bring that back somehow. That would be great.
Yes, that is an awfully nice thing, a nice cooked breakfast. Now let's get into Noshable because what I'm excited about is, it's not just a grocery delivery service, there's so much more. Can you tell us a bit more about Noshable and what it offers?
Yeah, yeah. So for Noshable, like I said, it's really just about starting that vacation right without errands and making a great first impression and beating those expectations of whatever they had in their mind of this is what my trip's going to be like and what I visualized. We want to go one step further, almost a little bit of that Disney magic, as they say. And so ultimately what we found is it's great that there's all these businesses coming around and these ideas of upsells, generating supplemental revenue for, property managers and that's awesome. But one of the most basic staples in everybody's trip is just groceries. And we found that even in the midst of a huge boom in services like Instacart and Uber Eats, where people use gig economy and they order food, we found that 59% of people that stay in a short-term rental for a week will use a service like Instacart or Uber Eats. Yet 94% of people, and if you're listening, I'm curious if this is you and the people that you travel with, 94% of people still go to the grocery store or they send someone, some lucky soul from their party to do the grocery shopping. And oftentimes it can be crowded in, destination areas. You don't know the layout and that can easily be a 2 hour ordeal, especially if you're shopping for a larger group than you're used to. And so that's where Noshable comes in. We're a free software for property managers because I've been on that side of things and I know how expensive the tech stacks can start to get. We offer the software completely free, and we pull directly from inventory from over 20 different grocery stores. So Kroger, Walmart, Publix, and you have the ability to have transparent pricing as well. And we include a markup directly on each of those products, similar to the Reed Instacart. That's kind of the model of how it's done. And not only is this free for PMs, but we rev share, which means that you're actually getting a portion of all the groceries that any guest purchase. So you basically, your end of the deal for making this free for us is you market it in your guidebook or any automated booking responses. And then in turn, anytime someone books, you get a kickback from all those groceries for free. And the way we do this, get those groceries actually pre-stocked in the fridge and kind of through that last door that Uber Eats and Instacart will, is we use what we call trusted fulfillment.
Yeah. So how does this work? Okay. So imagining somebody from Noshable showing up with a bag and going, here you go. So how is this? Yeah. Cause we're talking, first impressions are crucial in hospitality. So how can we leverage Noshable to create that lasting impression?
Yeah. So we have two routes that you can go. The first is building this out yourself in your own team. One of the things that I just believe is the people that you surround yourself with and the team you build is really going to be a huge differentiator, especially in hospitality. I mean, everyone is tech forward nowadays, but it really comes down to the people and the ones that go above and beyond for your guests. And so if you have a great team, we have the option that you can onboard your team as the trusted fulfillment themselves. So the way that we integrate with the grocers is it's all clicks, click list, curbside pickup. If you guys are familiar with the term, where essentially that grocer's employees will, pick the best goods and they'll have it all ready for you. And you simply back your car up. So you can onboard your own team. And then in our management panel, you have the ability to set the pricing that you want for that delivery. So if you pay your worker $25 an hour normally, and the property turns at 10 a.m., we can set the delivery time from 9 to 10 a.m. And, at 9:40, your cleaner can go ahead and pick up those groceries. And then when they're cleaning out the old fridge, they can stock the new one. And maybe they made $50. So it's a great way to reward your current staff. Or if you still pay them hourly, you can make some margin on that and just have the kickback go straight to you while still getting a markup on the groceries. And that's route one.
Yeah. I love that for both sides because the guest has the groceries are in the fridge when they get there.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. And there's a
there's
lot of freedom with that. Yeah.
Yes. No, I'm just thinking that selfishly for myself. I think that would be absolutely amazing. And also, if you've got the team and you've got the bandwidth there of having that staff member go get the groceries and bring it into the house. And like you said, a cleaner would be a good position of this because they're going to the house anyways to clean it. They can clean
Yeah.
the fridge and then stock it. Oh, I just love this. Okay. So what's the second one?
And then the second one is for those people who are still trying to build their own team, or maybe they're a little aggressive with their expansion and they just aren't quite ready to, take on the grocery delivery themselves, but they still want to offer this for guests, still completely free to them. They still get revenue share kickback on all the groceries purchased from their guests. But and candidly, we don't have this in every market yet, but if there's interest in your market, we've built out a wait list and we just prioritize it by demand. We have started to build out a trusted fulfillment network, which you can leverage yourself. So let's say you have 10 properties in, Park City or something like that. Then we will go in and based off of those wait lists, and we already have a variety of different markets where we have trusted fulfillment. We will find partners in that area that have liability insurance who, you would trust to go into your property and actually do the stocking yourself, which means they're not necessarily cleaning it or anything like that. It's just they're doing the grocery delivery and they're taking that cut of the delivery fee. You still get your rev share and you have a trusted individual who's able to handle this while you can't. And then down the line, if it's something that you feel like you have the bandwidth for, you want to take on yourself, because there's definitely a way to make a little bit extra money doing this yourself, then you can always switch that over. And we also have a really cool ability in our management panel to just disable the grocery delivery for a certain property or that link. So if at any point, you were doing it yourself and it just gets to be the holidays and you're like, I just don't want to offer this anymore for some reason, you have a lot of flexibility in changing the delivery fee, as well as just completely enabling or disabling the link.
Yeah, I love that. You thought about a lot of the things that property managers will need. Now, what markets are you covering? You're in the States, obviously. Where else? Are you anywhere else in the world?
Currently, we're not. We actually just had a request the other day. My co-founder had a request from someone in New Zealand. They're like, we love this in New Zealand, but New Zealand doesn't have apparently like curbside pickup groceries yet. He's like, there's a lot of things in the States that they're lacking on. You can make a ton of money just bringing a lot of concepts from the US into New Zealand. But no, yeah, we're just in a variety of different states, I think in different capacities. Like by no means does this mean we're in everywhere in the state or in all the cities, but I think we're in like 16 or 17 different states now.
That's great because, it's another silver lining from the pandemic, isn't it? we're starting to do more and more online, but also grocery shopping. When I lived in England, I had a standard, a regular weekly grocery shop. I went on my app, blah, 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 and
Yep.
every Tuesday it would come between whatever 10 and 11 and delivered to my house. Now I had to then stock the fridge and everything, which
Yeah.
that would have been nice if they had done that for me. But I'm thinking about those who are in England or other places. This is a service that they could almost, it wouldn't be, you wouldn't have the markup, it wouldn't be as easy as using Noshable. But I understand you're a startup. You will go worldwide. I know you will. It just takes some time. But I'm
Yep.
thinking of my own property in England. One thing we could do is give it as a service, a stocking service. So the
Yeah.
guests could order the groceries themselves from their local grocery store, like Sainsbury's or Morrison. These are brands that are in England.
Okay.
Have them delivered before check-in. If the
Yeah.
if there's somebody there who then could stock it. So I'm just thinking of workarounds here for people that are listening to this going, "Oh my god, that's so amazing." What do you mean you're not worldwide yet? I
Yeah.
don't wanna have crushing.
And hey, like you said, we're a startup, so I'm a huge proponent of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing if it sticks. So if someone in England, they want to try it, and we can always try and figure something out. So I'm always happy to try something. Then it'd be cool to say we're in England, even if it's just one property. So
Yeah.
and then maybe I'll have to make a business trip to England or something. I don't
Well,
know
and
if I
I
can get
think
away with
that
that.
would
But
be, I think, Canada, get to all the states, Canada, yeah, England, yeah, all those countries, both those countries, Canada and England, have those kind of services. So
yeah,
it will just take some time. But I love thinking outside of the box and what you can offer your guests, to increase their satisfaction, their experience.
yeah, yeah.
And
And I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say because we started by, leaving out coffee and tea and, these welcome baskets and
Yeah,
times go slightly over the top, but just having, toilet paper and shampoo, the basics. This is just that next level up. And I can
exactly.
imagine, just that feeling of walking into your short-term rental that you've say you're coming with your big family, you rented it for a week and you walk in there and everything's ready for you.
Yeah, yeah, and, I think there's this misconception that people don't necessarily understand that, um, people don't wanna pay for this, like, guests don't wanna pay for this, but that's really not true because if you look at people when they're on vacation, they're eating out way more, they're spending a lot more money, they're doing all these leisurely activities because that's their PTO, that's their quality time with their family, like, they're willing to spend that money, and there's not a week in their life, like, more so than that week where they wanna pay for convenience. Yes, like there are things like sushi chefs and stuff where some families that's appropriate. I know I was never that family that got the private sushi chef. I don't think I even ate sushi until I was out of the house. But it's like groceries are that staple. And if it's done right, people definitely want to pay for it. And one of the things we found in the industry is there are these grocery concierge companies that are successful. And even some of them we've partnered with, but they're just extremely outdated when it comes to tech and behind. So people have this standard that Amazon has set now where they want things super easily. They want the ability to order everything online, see the products, know the prices, add them to their cart and check out online. And with most grocery concierges nowadays, they have some don't even have pictures and you just basically are making this huge list and you're being extremely specific. I want 8 burgers. I need 2 burgers for someone that's vegan, but if it comes in a 4 pack, get that. I went through and pretended I wanted burgers for a family of 10 people with one vegan, and it was like 20 minutes just to get burger ingredients added. And so that's the nice thing too with like Mashable, and a lot of these other tech driven companies that are starting to come out is just matching that experience and that standard that people have set. And there's a lot of opportunities out there for PMs to leverage these types of technology.
Yeah, and when we're thinking about, a family coming for a week-long holiday and they're gonna eat out most of their meals, but that gets so expensive. I'm
Yeah.
sure that, getting some groceries in for lunches, for breakfasts, maybe the odd dinner will actually help them save money in the long run, and you're providing a service.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, this might not be everyone, but I always like having a bottle of wine or a cold beer there too when I start my vacation. And if you're a parent and you're dealing with a bunch of kids that you just drove 8 hours to Hilton Head or something from, I'm sure that's the first thing you're reaching for. So But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, people
Yeah.
love convenience more than anything. And I think anyway, and not just with groceries, but in any way you can kind of give them that convenience, whether it's being extremely responsive at all hours when you're, with your guest messaging or whatever it happens to be. People notice that. And that really goes towards that goodwill and building that brand like Apple and Delta that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it goes back to building that brand and having the guest experience being paramount to helping you build it. Where do you see the future of guest experience, of options that we can give our guests in short-term rentals?
Yeah, there's so many really cool technologies. I think from just like a marketplace in general and just like market share, that there's going to be a lot of property managers. And we've even seen this in this past year with legislation and, competitive pricing and all the like little changes that Airbnb is trying to do to make it seem like they're fixing things, that there's going to be a lot of PMs that get left in the dust and just can't compete. And I think the ones that are going to stand out are the ones that have this brand and have this loyalty where guests will keep coming back, even if it's $70 more than the last year per night. Like they will pay for that because not just because what the property is worth, but the experience that they've had in the past, the memories tied to that, and that they know and they trust that this is going to be, an on par experience to what they had in the past. So a lot of people have been talking about like unreasonable hospitality, which I've talked about on a couple other podcasts in the past. And I think now more than ever, that's important. Like going forward, it's not necessarily even about just being extremely profitable. Like there's double bottom lines. It's like you want to be profitable still, obviously that's your end goal. But at the same time, like if you can get guests that just really vouch for you, those are the guests that are going to help you get through these harder times where other property managers are just left in the dust. And so I think utilizing these types of technologies and services and just trying things and experimenting, as we were talking about earlier, are going to be super, super huge towards that effort. And then just having guests that like back you. And I think a great way to tell is when you're like reading your comments and the feedback people put, are they putting like, this is a great place to stay, recommend, or are they like writing a paragraph and, using real big words and telling you like what they liked about it or a little bit about their trip? You can really see that relationship and the impact you had on your guests. And I always thought that was interesting, is going and reading those comments and see what people are saying about your property. Is it just about like the accommodations? Because if it is, there's a lot of room for improvement in my opinion.
Definitely, definitely. So finally, I need to ask you, what does direct booking success mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, I think we really hit on it this whole podcast, but I think direct booking success to me is that people choose you over anyone else. And it's like that loyalty. It's that brand that you've become and that people are talking about you. If you're getting these direct bookings, you're doing something right that other people just aren't quite doing. And I think that ultimately what we've talked about this whole podcast resonates with that. And that's what it is to me, is building that loyalty and having people in your corner moving forward that are consumers.
Great. Great. And so I'm going to put your links in the show notes. The website is shopnoshable.com, and you're also on LinkedIn. So I'll put those links in the show notes so people can connect with you. But you've also got an offer for those listening, don't you?
Yeah, we do. So we are completely free for property managers. That said, we still want to give an offer to anyone listening to the DBS podcast. So just like when you book a demo or if you reach out to us and you include that you heard us on DBS, that will boost your revenue share based on, it's variable depending on how many properties you have and it's a couple other metrics, but you'll get a boost revenue share. And then we'll also cover the delivery fee, whatever it may be, for your very first guest. So you can give your first guest one of those special impressions where they get the free delivery of all of their groceries and they can walk into that kitchen full of, all the goods that they want there.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that picture that you've painted for the guest walking in there and just feeling like, yes, I've arrived, grab that chilled drink from the fridge and get on with their vacation. Love it.
Exactly. That's
Well,
the goal.
that is the goal. Connor, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was super awesome.